What percentage of U.S. Muslims believe that Sharia law should be implemented in the United States?
So I'm not aware of survey data on that specific question. However,
I can tell you it's 39%. 39% of Muslims in the United States want Sharia law implemented in the next 20.
All right, everyone, you just saw that clip of Representative Brandon Gill, and today we're diving into a serious and complex issue. We often talk about religious freedom in America, and that's a cornerstone of our constitutional system. But there's an important distinction between protecting an individual's right to practice their faith and debating how religious legal frameworks interact with secular law. In this hearing, Brandon Gill takes a direct approach. Instead of speaking in generalities, he zeroes in on specific concerns, funding sources, ideological influences, and how certain interpretations of Sharia law function as legal and political systems in other parts of the world. Whether you agree with him or not, he's asking pointed questions that demand clear answers. Some critics argue that parts of Europe, including countries like England and Sweden, have struggled with integration and legal pluralism. Supporters of stronger scrutiny say those examples show why lawmakers should address these issues openly rather than avoid them out of fear of controversy. At the heart of this debate is a constitutional question. How do we protect religious liberty while ensuring that U.S. law, including equal protection, freedom of speech, and gender equality, remains the supreme legal authority? Let's watch the full hearing and examine how the experts respond to Gill's questions. This is a complicated and high-stakes discussion, so let's break it down carefully.
To address these important issues. George Washington wrote that America was founded in part to create an asylum for the poor and oppressed of all nations and religions. Thomas Jefferson, among others, made clear that American religious freedom is supposed to extend to Muslims no less than to Christians, Jews, and others. George Washington and Jefferson, they were right, whereas the proposed Preserving a Sharia-Free America Act is wrong.
You, Mr. Soman, can you tell me what percentage of U.S. Muslims believe that Sharia law should be implemented in the United States?
So I'm not aware of survey data on that specific question. However,
I can tell you it's 39%. 39% of Muslims in the United States want Sharia law implemented in the next 20 years. Do you know what percentage of Muslims in the United States support the formation of a Muslim political party?
Again, I'm not familiar with survey data on that particular question.
The number is 46%. Do a couple more. Do you know what percentage of Muslims in the United States support making it illegal to show a picture of the cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad?
So as with the other questions, a lot depends on the wording and the sample, and I would want to see those details.
50%. That's a lot. Let's do one more. Do you know what percentage of Muslims in the United States believe that Islam should be declared as our national religion?
Once again, I would want to look at the methodology of the survey, the question.
33%. This is from a survey conducted by the Heritage Foundation in 2024. In September of 2024, it was published on October 6th, 2024. I got two more for you. Do you know what percentage of American Muslims believe that Israel does not have a right to exist as a Jewish homeland?
I don't know that one either, but if it's from a survey by the Heritage Foundation,
it's 43%. You're happy, you can declare that statistics you don't like aren't true, but that's not how I'm going to operate here. We got one more. Do you know what percentage of Muslims in the United States say that Jewish people have too much power in government policy?
Once again, I would refer you back to my previous answer.
57%. Do those facts concern you?
I would want to see the nature of the survey, and I would also know the.
No, I'm just asking. I'm just asking if those statistics concern you.
If they were accurate, they would be a matter of concern. But I would want to see.
They are accurate, and I think that they are a matter of concern, and I think most Americans agree with me there. Mr. Spencer, I'm going to move on to you. Let me ask you: is Islam as a political ideology, in your opinion, compatible with America's constitutional governing framework?
Oh, no, certainly not. It denies the freedom of speech, denies the equality of rights of non-Muslims with Muslims, the equality of rights of women with men, and contradicts U.S. law in numerous other particulars.
And can you tell me, what is the goal of political Islam?
Well, Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, said Islam must dominate and not be dominated. And in every Sharia state that is on earth today and has ever been on earth, non-Muslims have not had equality of rights with Muslims in the society. The idea is to enforce a subservient position for them so that they know the pain in this world as well as the next of having rejected Muhammad, which the Quran says that they will suffer.
Under Islamic law, as it's commonly practiced, are men and women treated with equal dignity?
No, certainly not. I quoted before the passage about women beating women from whom you fear disobedience. The Quran contains nothing about beating disobedient men.
Ms. Child, I've got a few questions for you. Can you explain to us very, very briefly, what is Epic City?
Oh, yes.
Do you mind turning your microphone on?
Yeah, so to understand how Sharia relates to Epic City, you don't have to look any further than Imam Yasser Qadi of Epic. He's the chairman of the Fiqh Council on North America, the group that tells Muslims in the U.S. how to apply Sharia.
Mm-hmm. And do you know who's funding Epic City?
Yes, just one moment. I have some information on funding. And when you ask where the money and infrastructure for Epic City are coming from, when Epic City was first marketed, they actively solicited investors, including foreign investors. So that fundraising model is now under serious legal scrutiny with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. He sued East Plano Islamic Center, its development arm, Community Capital Partners, alleging violations of Texas security laws and how funds were raised and managed. And this isn't isolated.
Thank you. Speaking about this is an issue that I hear all the time from my constituents in North Texas who are concerned about the rise of radical Islam in Texas. And I want to thank the witnesses for being here as well. You know, there's a fundamental truth that I think we've got to recognize, which is that not all cultures are created equal, and they are not all equally compatible with America's governing framework. Yeah. The reality is that radical Islam as a political ideology has a very different conception of freedom of speech than we have in the United States, a very different conception of freedom of religion, of separation of church and state, or of mosque and state. Islam as a political ideology is inherently imperialistic, and we see that now, unfortunately, all over the Western world.
Now, please listen.
It is a game changer. We need somebody like Mamdani to be the mayor of New York. And that is a victory for the ummah. I'm jumping the gun here, but this is one of the narrow-minded is need to break here. And if you don't understand this, then honestly, you need to rethink through your understanding of civilizational strength. Our biggest weakness is our percentage in this country. We are very disadvantaged. By the way, this is only in this country because across the Western world, mashallah, tabarakallah, percentages are rising to the point of it's terrifying them. Sweden, 10% Muslim. Oslo, Norway, 10% Muslim. Oslo, of all places, Vienna. The Ottoman Turks tried 200 years, they couldn't do anything. Vienna is 10% Muslim, mashallah, tabarakallah. 10% Muslim. England, London, it is estimated 20%. I was in Australia a year and a half ago. Australia. Sydney, there are districts the size of maybe half of Austin that are 60% Muslim.
They can be as mad as they want. I don't care. America will be a Muslim country. Russia will be a Muslim country. Islam will enter every house, inshallah.
All right.
But we have to be a part of that change. We have to be a part of that da'wah. We have to be a part of those ghuraba who stand firm on our aqeedah and our practice and our deen and never ever apologize. We're unapologetic. Never ever compromise. We're uncompromised.
Wow. Did you catch Professor Sman's reaction there? Representative Brandon Gill came prepared with data citing a 2024 Heritage Foundation survey and pressed for direct answers. In response, Sman repeatedly said he wasn't familiar with that specific research. That raises a fair question. When experts testify before Congress on issues this sensitive, how thoroughly should they be prepared to address widely circulated data, even if they dispute it? The numbers Gill referenced, including claims about support among some respondents for implementing aspects of Sharia over time or restricting depictions of religious figures, go straight to the heart of a constitutional debate. If even a segment of any population supports limiting speech based on religious standards, that clashes directly with the First Amendment. In the United States, speech protections, including controversial or offensive speech, are foundational. Then there was testimony from Robert Spencer, who argued that certain interpretations of Sharia law create legal hierarchies that conflict with equal protection principles under the 14th Amendment. His position is that constitutional law must remain the ultimate authority, with no parallel legal system undermining equal rights. The conversation shifted to concerns about foreign funding and ideological influence in local communities. Allegations about overseas investors and controversial religious figures raise questions about transparency and national sovereignty. When public officials hear statements from religious leaders abroad celebrating demographic or political shifts in Western countries, it understandably fuels anxiety about long-term intentions, whether those statements represent fringe rhetoric or something broader. At its core, this debate isn't about targeting a faith. It's about the boundaries between religious liberty and constitutional supremacy. America's system is built on separation of church and state, equal protection under the law, and freedom of expression. Any ideology, religious or otherwise, that seeks to override those principles will face scrutiny. So is Gill being provocative, or is he raising legitimate constitutional concerns? That's the real question. Where's the line between protecting freedom of religion and defending the rule of law? Let's discuss.